Story 1. My friend's mom was scammed by the insurance company. My friend's mom, Karen, suddenly stopped farting. It seemed strange at first, but it quickly became serious. She began to feel constant abdominal bloating. Her stomach started cramping, and she couldn't sleep because of the pressure in her intestines. The doctor said that this gas buildup could really mess up her life. Constant pain, nausea, and even bowel obstruction. The doctor recommended a special procedure, a gas-reducing implant, which essentially solves the problem by helping her safely release the accumulated gases. But the implant cost thousands of dollars, and insurance was required to approve it. When the insurance company received the request, they turned her down, saying that delayed flatulence was not a medical emergency. They suggested she try over-the-counter remedies, which her doctor explained would not help because the problem was not her stomach, but a physical blockage in her intestines. Karen called them again and again, explaining that without the ability to pass gas, she was in constant pain, barely eating, and couldn't even go to work. Their response: "We understand your discomfort, but this is not life-threatening." The doctor sent all sorts of evidence, including that untreated trapped gas can lead to life-threatening complications such as bowel perforation. Nevertheless, the insurance company continued to deny it, claiming that she should first try dietary changes and yoga. Karen continued to fight, but by the time the insurance company finally approved the implant, the damage was already done. She developed a partial bowel obstruction and needed emergency surgery, which cost much more than the implant. And guess what? The insurance company tried to dismiss that bill as well, claiming that the obstruction was unrelated. She fought them for months, and they eventually covered some of the costs, but her health still hasn't fully recovered. All because they didn't consider farting important enough to treat. Story 1. I thought I was helping my friend clean out their apartment, but I ended up trapped in a nightmare. A few years ago, my friend Rachel asked me to help clean out her late uncle's apartment. He had passed away unexpectedly, and she didn't know what to do with all of his things. I agreed without hesitation, figuring it would be a quick and easy favor. The apartment was in an old building that felt like it hadn't been updated in decades. Dusty furniture, old photographs, and stacks of paperwork were everywhere. While we were going through things, I came across something strange: a large, intricately carved box hidden behind a pile of books. It was strange enough that it stood out: no labels, no markings, just an odd, weathered design. Rachel saw me holding it and quickly told me to put it back, claiming it had been in her family for generations. "It's just an old family heirloom," she said, but the way she said it seemed off. Despite her warning, I opened it. Inside was a stack of old photographs. Some of them looked like they were taken decades ago, but there was one thing in common. Every picture had the same group of people, except one. The last photo, the one on top, was of Rachel only. She was standing in front of the apartment building, looking out the window at me. The oddest part: the picture had been taken yesterday. I immediately asked Rachel about it, but she didn't seem to know what I was talking about. She didn't even recognize herself in the photo. That's when things started to get strange. The longer we stayed in the apartment, the more I felt like I wasn't alone. I kept hearing footsteps behind me when no one was there, and there were whispers, soft and distant, that seemed to follow me through the rooms. The air in the apartment started feeling heavier, suffocating. Rachel's behavior also changed. She became distant, her eyes vacant. At one point, I saw her staring blankly at the wall, mumbling something under her breath. When I asked if she was okay, she snapped back, her face contorted with anger, telling me to stop bothering her. But her voice didn't sound like hers. It wasn't long before I saw something move in the corner of my vision. A figure, pale, tall, with a face I could barely make out, was standing in the hallway. The lights flickered, and the figure vanished. That's when I realized the box wasn't just a family heirloom. It was a curse. I didn't know how or why, but it was clear Rachel was connected to whatever it was. She had always lived in that apartment. Now, it was as if she was slipping away from reality itself. I ran out of the apartment that day, calling Rachel's phone, but it went straight to voicemail. I haven't heard from her since. The only thing I know for sure is that the moment I opened that box, I crossed a line. I haven't been able to shake the feeling that I'm being watched. And sometimes, late at night, I still hear her voice whispering my name. Story 3. I opened a box I found in my grandmother's attic. I still don't know if I made it out alive. It was about 5 years ago when I decided to clean out my grandmother's old house. She had passed away a few months prior, and her home was now left to me. The house had always been a bit creepy, but I had fond memories of staying there as a kid, except for the attic. I never went up there, even when I was little. It was dark, cold, and filled with old junk that didn't interest me. But with everything I needed to sort through, I had no choice. One afternoon, while sifting through dusty old boxes in the attic, I found something odd. Tucked behind a pile of ancient books was a small, weathered box, no label, no markings. What stood out most was the note taped to it, written in messy handwriting. Do not open. You don't know what's inside. I should have listened to that warning. I really should have. But instead, I couldn't help myself. I mean, who wouldn't want to know what's in a box that's been hidden away for decades with a warning like that? When I opened it, my heart skipped a beat. Inside was a key. Simple, tarnished, and unremarkable at first glance, but it felt wrong the moment I touched it. Cold, almost like it was never meant to be held by human hands. I thought it was strange, but I didn't think much of it at the time. I tucked it in my pocket and moved on with the cleaning. Later that evening, I began noticing things that didn't add up. Mirrors around the house seemed to reflect more than they should, shadows moving just out of sight, whispers when no one was near. At first, I convinced myself it was just stress. Maybe I was imagining it. But then I walked past a mirror in the hallway one night and froze. The reflection was me, but my eyes, they were wrong. I don't know how to explain it, but there was something off. The eyes weren't mine. They were too wide, too wild. And the grin? It wasn't mine either. It was something dark, something that looked like it didn't belong on my face. I quickly turned away, but I heard something, a soft click, like a door unlocking somewhere in the house. The thing is, I didn't have any doors that should have been locked. I didn't tell anyone about it. I didn't know how. But things kept happening. The reflections kept changing. The whispers grew louder. Then, one night, I woke up to the sound of footsteps in the hall. I tried to tell myself it was just my imagination, but the footsteps were too distinct, and they were getting closer. I never found the lock that key belonged to. I didn't need to, because by the time I realized it was probably the key to whatever was now haunting me, I wasn't sure I could leave. I moved out of that house shortly after, but even now, sometimes, I still hear the whispers in my head. And every time I pass by a mirror, I can't help but wonder, is it still out there,